live. All right, sweet. We are live right now. Everybody, this is Lance Smith from XE Gear. We're going to do the official opening here in just a second. We're just kind of letting people kind of join in. Lance is coming in. What is the closest town to you in Mississippi?
I'm south of Hernando, Mississippi, but yeah, I guess
Yeah.
South Haven would be the biggest town close to me.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
I would imagine not that many people really know that much about Mississippi. I don't.
So if you know, everybody knows about Elvis.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Elvis Presley. Yeah, so Elvis Presley was born in Tupelo, Mississippi, about an hour and 15 minutes south of here, and then Elvis moved to Memphis, where Graceland is.
Yeah.
And then Elvis bought, of course, he moved and bought Graceland. And then he came to DeSoto County. That's the county I'm in. It's right over the state line. And he bought a big ranch out there
Okay.
called the Circle G. And it's still one continuous piece of property.
Oh
But
wow.
so it's easy to remember. I'm from where, I'm the
Basic.
same place where Elvis came from.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and do this. Welcome to the Gospel of Two Wheels, everybody, where the coffee's hot, the bikes are fast, and your comments are absolutely ridiculous. Welcome, Mr. Lance Smith of XC Gear, the maker of the Mako 360 is the most famous thing you make. Also, Spurs, footpegs, hammerhead, bicycle, like bar mount kind of thing.
Yep.
What else do you guys make?
The Tool Caddy.
Yeah, the tool caddy. Mine's
Yeah.
mine's right behind me. So.
Yeah, I got a couple back there, but the Tool Caddy, a lot of people buy those things too.
Heck yeah. So, Lance, give us a little intro here. Let me say hey to everybody. Chris Burns, Josiah Lopez, Todd, Fridays, Elijah, Rural Delinquent, Bruce Kennedy, Kim Jackson. How's it going? Lance, give us the quick rundown, who you are, what you do, all that good stuff for the people who don't know.
Woo! So I was in the construction business the majority of my life, and then started doing invented the foot peg first, the Spurs back in 13, and 17. I just said, man, I think this stuff's is good enough. I think other people will buy it. I think, and so I started doing that as a side hustle, in the garage, late nights and all that stuff. And then I sold the construction business in March of this past year. So now all I do is XC Gear. I just make motorcycle parts.
Nice. Right on. That's awesome. And what's your background in, so like, let's just go through what made you, like, how did the Spurs foot pegs come about? Like, what was the thing that led you to that?
All right, so I've got bad knees, really bad knees, and people will say they're, it's not genetic, but every male in my family is short, big nose, bad knees. We're all, it's the same deal. And I have had two major knee constructions. One of them was really bad, and my knees are bad, and they hurt and they ache. And I was going to Colorado, out there where you are. I was going to Colorado for 2 weeks riding dirt bikes. I'd ride dirt bikes one day, razors the next, and kind of break up the dirt biking, a little bit. My wife would go, Lisa. And I was driving. I love the drive. I don't like flying out there because you miss a lot between. It's just such a beautiful, it's a different country, and I love the drive. And I was thinking, I was like, man, nobody makes a foot peg with suspension in it. And I think that would really help my knees if I just had some cush, and to take some of the abuse off of my knees. And that's what started the deal. Was I started working on the foot pegs. It took me a long time. It took about 4 years.
Okay, right on. And was it always an elastomer, or did you do other things first?
It was always elastomers, but
Right.
the first one was hideous. It was awful. I was gonna throw it in the garbage. My wife told me, no, don't throw it away. I was like, I'd hate for anybody to see this thing, but it's always been elastomers. It didn't start working until we went to the square elastomer that used to be round, a couple revisions were round, and it also didn't work well until we went to the rectangular shaft. So, the shaft on the foot peg's 15 millimeters wide and 10 millimeters thick. And that's when it started to work.
Gotcha. Right on.
Always
So
been possible.
couple questions. First of all, Brady Metter says, "Hey, little buddy."
Yeah, what's up, Brady? Yeah, he can say that. Everybody can say that to me, but he can really say that to me.
Yeah, dude.
He's
There's
a dude.
there's no one bigger than Brady Metter as far as I'm concerned. The
Yeah, he's big.
Ronnie, no, he is not from Texas. He's from Miss. Are you actually? Were you born and raised in Mississippi, or are you like?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
I have been, in that same little town of South Haven for my whole entire life. I was born in a hospital in Memphis, brought home to South Haven, so I'm a South Haven boy. And all the old timers are all freaked out that I left South Haven, but I've moved south of Hernando now. So um, if you were from South Haven, had been there a long time, it would, it was a little bit different. Like, I cannot believe you're leaving South Haven. I was like, man, I gotta go. I
Yeah.
do. I want
Gotta
some more
do.
room.
Yeah, I
Oh,
gotta do
it's too
something.
busy out there.
Let's see if we got any other. Garrett wants to know how you got involved with this clown. How did we meet? Just through the internet?
I think you called one day or sent I get a bunch of Instagram messages, and we either kicked it off on Instagram, or it was probably Instagram or a telephone call.
Yeah, I think it was. I think I remember because I had, quick full disclosure, I had used flex bars for a long time, and Brady actually was yelling at me to try a Mako 360. And I was like, man, yeah, fair enough, whatever. I just can't afford to buy it, blah, blah, blah. And then I had a customer come in, and he wanted Mako 360 and Spurs foot pegs because he had a 500 KTM that shakes, amazingly enough, almost like a CR 500. Those things shake so bad.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, so I think I called you. I think that's what it was. I called you and was like, hey, I got a customer. You make me a dealer. And you're like, yeah, sure. That was all it took to be a dealer, which was awesome. I was like, oh, this is great. And then I was like, yeah, I better try one of those things. And then from then, that was it. And I switched everything over except for my XR650. We talked about that. I got to get you some measurements because I need to switch my 650 over to a Mako 360 too because it's got a Scotch triple clamp. We'll worry about that. And James Narkill, there's not a pre-order on the I Suck at Dirt Bikes hoodies, but you can order them on highland-cycles.com. Go to merchandise. You can order them there. Let's see. So Mako 360. First of all, which one sells better, Spurs foot pegs or Mako 360s?
Oh man, the Mako outsells the Spurs probably 25-1.
Okay, I kind of thought that. I figured that. So from the Spurs, how did the Mako come about? I'm guessing bad wrist, bad shoulders.
No, after I got the Spurs story is really cool. Have we got a second? Let me tell you the story.
No, yeah.
All right, so Andrew DeLong, Andrew, the 2014 National Enduro Champion, Rockstar Husqvarna guy. So let me tell you how out of touch I was. I might have had an iPhone, I don't know, but it was in 2000. He was the champion. It was 2014, and I wasn't on Facebook. I had no social media whatsoever, but I've always been self-employed, and I've always had my own private riding area. Most of the time I've just leased property, just to ride dirt bikes around here. And a buddy of mine that was on Facebook called and was like, hey, Andrew DeLong is in Memphis, Tennessee, and he's wanting somewhere to ride tomorrow. And the guy knew, I work for myself. I had a place to ride. And he was like, hey, you want me to hook y'all up? And I'm like, sure. So I come ride with Andrew, super nice guy. Just met him out on the, right there at my little riding track. And I never said anything to him about the Spurs foot peg. I was embarrassed. It kind of, when you have something that different, it kind of feels like, you know, the first day in gym class when you got to go take a shower, you know, or
Yeah.
whatever, and you just don't want anybody to see you. And I was embarrassed to tell him about it. And then later on, I built up the courage and I called him. And the longer I'm in the business now and talking to all of these, you know, the guys I talk to now, I realize how big a favor he did for me. But I called him. I was like, hey, I've got this foot peg I'm working on, and I wondered if you could try it for me and ride it and see what's up. And this is where it gets good. He could have said no. He could have not taken the phone call, you know, or he could have said I don't have time, or Rockstar Husqvarna won't let me do that. There's a lot of things he could have said, but he said, let me call my boss and I'll find out. So he calls me back and says, hey, I can test them, but no pictures. You can't tell anybody. They can't be on the race bike and but I can help you to develop the foot pegs, which one was great. So I could, you know, because Andrew's a bull. He tears up everything. We get him to ride it. And two, I got a little insight on the way the factory was setting their foot pegs up. So like the Spurs foot peg for the the older generation bike, you know, like 15 and down, those foot pegs are the same exact height and the same placement as what the factory KTM and Husqvarna guys are running on the factory bikes. And then hence the same thing on the, you know, the 16 to the 22 frame, same thing. But that's how the foot peg got developed with Andrew. And I finally got them working. It took a long time. I tore up a bunch of foot pegs, all kinds of stuff. And I was laying in bed one night. I remember it vividly. And I thought, you know, when the world sees the foot peg, and when I say the world, I mean another inventor, tinker, company, someone. But what I did with that polymer, it's gonna change the way they think, and somebody's gonna try to figure out a way to take a round set of handlebars and not mount them metal to metal, and that's what I'm gonna do next. Um, and look, I don't want to get like real religious, you, but I know you're a Christian. I follow your stuff. The Lord put those thoughts in my head and enabled me and put me in the right places and put the right people in front of me that enabled that to happen. I had a lot of help from him. I didn't do this on my own.
That's awesome.
So,
No, that's so cool. I love it. I just love any success story of any kind, and I really like it when God's involved, because He's always
yeah.
involved, right?
Yeah, how do you explain that? How do you explain Andrew DeLong riding at my
Yeah,
track? How do you
right.
explain that?
Yeah,
There's no
it's
way.
not
Hey,
like you were racing with him and you said, "Hey, come over."
hey, I know. Check this out. So Andrew, later on in the year, breaks it. This is my big break.
Right.
Andrew breaks his wrist, and he's off the motorcycle with Rockstar. Okay, and I'm talking to him now because we're buddies, you know, a little bit, you know. And I told him I was working on the handlebar mount, and he hadn't rode it. He's had a broke wrist, you know. And he calls one day, and out of the blue, and says, "Hey, I'm back on the bike. The bosses want me back on the bike, and I rode today, and I can't remember the minutes, so please don't, you know, Andrew, if you're watching, please don't." He said 2 minutes or three or whatever, and I can only ride the bike 2 or 3 minutes, and then my wrist is hurting so bad that I just can't do it. And do you happen to have one of those handlebar mounts that you were telling me about? And you're not going to believe this. The day before I got them, I only made 100
Ah,
of them, and I had them. And I said, "You're not going to believe this, Andrew, but I just got them yesterday." And and he said, "Would you ship me one out and let me try it?" And I did. You know, I'm excited. We got no boxes. We got no bill. We ain't got nothing. And I boxed one up probably in some box I found, you know, and shipped it to him. And he called me later that night and he goes, "Hey," the next day after he's riding, he goes, "Hey, I can ride." I forget the minutes, 12 minutes or something with your handlebar mount, where I can only ride with 2 or 3 with the PHDS. That's what they run on the factory bikes. But the guys don't believe it. They think I'm lying, and so they want to do the exact same test again tomorrow. I got to eat the exact same food, ride at the exact same time, and we're going to do the same exact thing tomorrow. And he called me the next night, and he said it's the same thing. I tested everything out there; it's the same. And I'm gonna do the National Enduro this weekend. And can you get me one out? And I hand delivered one to uh, St. Joseph, Missouri, the state park there when they had the National Enduro in Missouri. My wife said it was the most nervous she's ever seen me. We've been married almost 28 years. She's never seen me so nervous before.
That's awesome, man. Oh,
And
that
they
is so
bolted.
cool.
And that was a big break because again, you couldn't tell anybody. You couldn't
Right.
take any pictures. He couldn't tell anybody the whole deal, but a bunch of the pros knew. They knew what was going on and saw me there and this, that, and the other. And that was the other kind of big break.
That's awesome. So, quick tech question from someone here wants a breakdown of the polymer densities, like, which I know a lot of people always want to know, like softest. Let's go like cushiest to stiffest.
Cushiest to stiffest, the bar polymer. The cushiest are the purple, and then the next step up is orange, and then the next step up is red, and then the next step up is green.
Gotcha. And then
That's the bar polymer.
when on the shark bite, how do you determine which shark bite you're going to use with which polymer? Because I know the polymer does all the big hits, right? And then the shark bite
Yeah,
just keeps it from rotating. It's the rotating
a
part.
bunch of it. Yeah, it does. Here's something that we found. The stiffer you go with the bar polymers, because when you bolt the bar polymers between the lower perches and the top clamp, they are under compression. And so they are grabbing that handlebar. And if you get into like 15 steps stiffer than the green, which is not really that much on the bar polymer, the shark bite clamp is almost not needed.
Okay.
Um, it you can I wouldn't ride without it, but so the bar polymer does come into play all the time as far as grabbing that bar. And typically when you drop down on, you know, the bar polymer, typically you go up on the sharp bite polymer.
Okay.
And
Gotcha.
you kind of cheat the situation. It's like, hey, I want to run, Brady will relate to this. I want to run a lighter spring, but we're going to bump the oil weight up, and use a thicker oil.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, because I run the purple with orange. Yeah, purple with orange shark bite is my setup on my bikes, and it's it's crazy, honestly, how much of a difference that made. Because on the 125 I put stiffer polymers in because I was like, it's a 125, it's lightweight. I want to be, it's a race bike, right? I want it laser feeling, and it was super lasery feeling. But I'm old and beat up, and I was like, man, this is kind of killing my hands. So I
Yeah.
switched to soft ones, and it made all the difference in the world. And I didn't slow. I mean, the bike still worked just perfectly. It was
Yep.
awesome. Kim, I will get you a set of purple. You got to remind me, but I'll get you a set of purple ones. I will not remember. Uh, let's see. Mitch of Canada would love to try them. Went off solid bark busters to flags. Put so much flax in the bar. Yeah, I run flags partially because of the flex, and flags with the Mako 360. It's super cool. I mean, and I don't mean to talk about flex bars, but just to give the comparison to people who have maybe used flex bars in the past. And quick shout out, Fast Company was very good to me. They're very nice people. I got nothing bad to say about Fast Company at all. But for me to get my flex bars to feel as good as a Mako 360, I had to get it so soft that I could feel it moving. It didn't feel right. Like I could tell that the bars were doing something. Whereas for me, the Mako 360, I can't tell they're doing anything except for that I don't hurt at the end of the day. So it's
Perfect description. That's what I'd like to tell everybody. If you ever feel the handlebars move, you're way too soft on your setup.
right. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you don't want that at all. I
No,
don't want.
yeah, your only thought is hopefully you feel it while you're riding. This is comfortable. I have a lot of people, and everybody's different.
Sure.
Everybody's different. And a lot of people will tell you, hey, I I really didn't feel anything different while I was riding, but my wrists aren't hurting today and my shoulder's not hurting today, and usually it does. But
Yeah. I feel like
everybody's different.
one of the biggest things for me is that I like to let people ride my bike, that, so they can test it out, right? Because I don't spend $400 and not know, right?
Sure.
And I let them ride it, try to let them ride it for like a long time, 30 minutes, an hour, right? And then I have them get back on their bike and immediately that's when I notice it. Because if I go grab another person's bike that doesn't have one, it's like, I don't even want to move.
Yeah,
I don't even want to take off. I'm like, God, that hurts. It's like, it feels like someone's hitting you with a baseball bat in your hands. It's amazing how much difference it makes. And you don't really notice it the first time you get on the bike. You just go ride. And then it's when you get back, you're like, oh, God, I can't do that anymore. It sucks. Let's see, guys, if you're watching, please ask questions of me or Lance. Definitely would love any questions. Do you have them for a KTM 790 Adventure R?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You pretty much have everything, don't you? Like,
yeah, we fit the 790. We've got a setup where you can run just the Mako on the 790, or you can run an underbar stabilizer, a Scots or a Fastway on the 790. So pretty much got you covered. Or you can run one over, but most of them adventure guys run them under. But we got setups,
Yeah, so no worry. And if you go to the website's actually really, really easy to use, guys. It's got the picker for your machine, so you just year, make, model, and then it shows everything that they make for it. It's really super easy. MX Husky 530, watch your SX XC video. Both are great. What is your preference? What do you think is more versatile? XC to me is way more versatile. The SX is brilliant and amazing, but with the 5-speed and the smaller tank, like the XC is so racy that you don't need an SX. Like SX is cool, and maybe if you want to save a bunch of money, because you do save a bunch of money and you want to do it, but if you got the money, just buy the XC, because it's an SX with 6 speeds. There's nothing really different.
Big tank, 18-inch rear wheel.
Yeah, there's nothing else. Matt, Andres, Trail Nerds, what setup do you need? I would go purple with orange shark bite, and then quick, give us the lowdown, Lance, on what, I know it, but the difference between the normal Mako 360 and the Mako 360 SX.
So the SX was developed when Ryan Sipes did his Red Bull contract, and they wanted him to do some Supercross. And I had talked to Ryan before about making a lighter version, and then Ryan called, and said, hey, Rockstar was great to me, but I'm leaving Rockstar and I'm going to Red Bull and I'm going to be back doing Supercross. And you talked about it, won't you do it? And I said, man, if you're going to do that, then I'll go ahead and make them. I'd already designed them, but it's just lighter. It's about 18% lighter than the original version, but they work exactly the same. I think the Cliff Note version is it's lighter and sexier.
There you go. Yeah, it's definitely sexier. You get the cool badge of a different color. It's machined. I wish, I could take you over and show it to you. It's just machined out more. It just looks really pretty. But as far as, if you need to save $100, just get the normal one and it will work exactly like the SX.
Yeah, it's only $79.
Oh, it's only $79 difference now. Okay.
Yeah, only $79. But for the $79, the charge is the amount of time we spend machining material.
Yep.
And then the lower perches on the SX are also Blackstone graphene coated, whereas with my original version, they're either powder coated or Cerakoted. I don't get them graphened.
Okay.
So you get the SX, then it's graphened. A lot of it's just a really cool coating,
Gotcha. Justin Callahan asks, I currently have the BRP vibration setup with Scott's damper. How does the Mako compare versus the BRP setup? Lance, I'll let you answer that, and then I'll give you my opinion?
Ooh. Um,
And just
let
be
me
honest,
start
man.
off.
It's
Uh,
okay.
yeah, ours is going to be lower. For one, we're a lot lower and lighter than everybody else, so it's going to be lower and lighter. Um, yeah, yeah. Uh, Ours works, and we put a 30-day satisfaction money back guarantee on it. So basically, tell everybody, look, if you don't think your money was well spent, then send it back. If and that's just and we started that when we were new, and trying to sell things, and we have continued to do that because I just don't ever get them back. I probably got back less than 15 over 5 years. Um,
Yeah. And let me just jump in there, Justin. He's been really nice. Uh, the BRP is fine, right? It does something. It's not that it doesn't do anything. It does something, but the difference is, like, honestly, it's the difference in having nothing, just plain bars on a triple clamp, to the Mako 360. Like, the BRP thing, in my opinion, barely helps with vibration. It doesn't do anything for the sharp hits and the things in the trail at all. Whereas I know Brady's yelling my air compressor. I forgot to turn it off. Sorry, everybody. But whereas the Mako, it just makes everything more comfortable. So it's hands down a better piece of equipment. It's not even the same thing. So see, red, compatible with Luxon triple clamps.
I haven't seen, I hadn't had any customers call. Typically, if Luxon copied, um, if they copied the cone profile and the perch spacing, then yes, we can fit it. But a lot of those aftermarket manufacturers, um, don't have to necessarily follow the factory tolerances, because when you shove one of those rubber cones, if you put you know what I mean, and you tighten a bolt, you can make the rubber cone conform to whatever. But our aluminum cones should, they do. They fit all of the factory cone profiles perfectly. But
Nice.
I hadn't had anybody call with the Luxon. They're good looking pieces.
Yeah. Uh, Miller Small Engine, do you sell one for a 98 RM 125? I'm guessing those aren't two-piece triple clamps.
Yeah, Suzuki is actually not changed in years, and a lot of the aftermarket triple clamp manufacturers, they used to use the Suzuki cone profile. So the Suzuki is typically a 96 millimeter perch spacing and their own cone profile. So if the bar perches are removable from the triple clamp, then yes, I would gather to say it's going to be a 96 millimeter perch spacing.
Right,
So
which
it should both.
it's pretty easy to check that out. So Miller's, if you go out, see if the perches come off of the triple clamps. If they do,
Yep.
then even if they're not the right thing, probably they have the right. I'm sure it is, like Lance said, it's probably the right 96 millimeter and all that stuff. But you can measure that stuff, and you
Yep.
can talk to Lance. You can give him a call at the shop, and they can tell you exactly which one you need.
Yep.
Speaking of your stuff, you've been posting a bunch of stuff with the new dually that you're coming out with. Is that available to folks? And what was the driving force behind that?
It's available on the website as of today, and I've got about 20 sets back from coding. Um, and I've got another 50 that I don't know, they may have left today. The girls may have got those gone today. The driving force with the dually was, um, I have, some people are more prone to wadding their stuff, crashing really hard. Um, and I had two people in particular that had I always have a hard time with them. One of them is Grant Baylor, the
Oh,
2022
yeah.
National Girl. And Grant crashes, and when he crashes hard. Um, and Morgan, the way that we make the walls on our perches, it mimics what KTM does. And they will crash so hard that they'll tear the walls. you know, so the perches have a little wiggle in them. And so I wanted to offer something to people, and I see it regular when somebody, typically they're hurt, but um, so I increased the wall strengthness immensely and put that bridge in between them. Um, and that keeps the perches straight. You know, there's no way for that thing to ever turn now. Um, so it's just really a very strong upgrade to what we make now. One dually is lighter than a set of our UV perches. The UV perches are what we sell on our original. You know, the
Okay.
original Mako. One is $3.99.
Yeah.
If you weigh two of the perches, that we call them UVs, meaning universal,
Yep.
you weigh two of those perches and weigh the dually is lighter because I applied all of the back cut, the undercut to the perch, just like I do the SX,
Right.
but strengthened the walls up and then added the bridge. And the bridge will be a mounting place for further products like a throttle cable guide, an hour meter, things like that. It'll give you a good place to mount some things as well.
Cool. Kim, no, he is not the manufacturer of Hammerhead products. He has a product called the Hammerhead, which is a bicycle version of the Mako 360, right? Am I right about
Yep.
that? Okay, cool.
Yep.
Let's see. Let's see. Real quick, two-stroke addict coming in from Australia. I went riding, had a buddy with a 300 TBI, was backfiring when stopping, when doing slow riding, marking a track and consistent start. Any ideas why? Mine does that every now and then. Like when you shut it off, it goes and backfires. I don't know if it's an ignition. It's got to be an ignition thing, right? Because there's no valves, like a four-stroke. So it has to be some sort of ignition deal. I don't know what it is. It doesn't bother me. It's never caused any kind of issues, so I don't really care. Yeah. Have you ridden one of the new bikes, Lance? Have you ridden a new?
No, can you see what's in my garage?
Oh, I saw your Shirkos. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I'm a big Sherco guy. So
Oh yeah.
I think maybe you'll see a little TW, but
Yeah, nice.
and that pup right there, you see that one?
Oh yeah.
That's an all original 94 TW that I
No
chainsaw
way.
with.
That's
All
awesome.
original. Got 1,100 miles on it. I still ride it too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One guy asked, my buddy Chris asked if you make them for TMs. You got stuff for TMs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got
Yeah, we got-
everything, dude. Like I'm telling you, I asked one time, I forget, this is years ago. I made the mistake of asking Lance if he made a Mako for some, I thought, boutique brand, and he's like, dude, come on. Like he just laughed at me. Yeah, he's got it, no problem.
Yeah.
Let's see. Trail Nerds, what's the price? $399 for the original Mako 360, and then what's the SX? Is
$479 for an
$479.
SX.
So, and Matt, you can, if you want, give me a ring tomorrow, and I'll drop ship you one right to your door. So, Scott Copland, notice the backfire if you don't hold the kill switch long enough. Okay, there we go. Let's see. Crash Hard, how's it going? Doesn't the 23XC have a better, stronger handlebar mount versus the old XC? I don't know. It might, but I didn't really ride it very much. The stock one. The very first thing I did to that bike was to put a Mako 360 on it. So that was a number one modification. So, given seat time, Brian Pierce is jumping in, complaining about his Sherco dying. It's because it's totally an antique.
He's riding an 18, I think.
Yeah, it's an 18, and it had trouble on our death march because of the little stupid switch that turned it on. Like it has, back on those ones, you had to like turn it on, and then you could start it. It was like a weird, it just turned the ignition on. It was odd. Brady says, ask Lance if he likes riding bikes Russ works on. I'm guessing you mean Russ Bobbitt.
No. Yeah, Russell Bobbitt, yeah. No, he's not. There's a reason why he races and is not wrenching. Yeah, Brady was there that day. Russ set my bike up, and and he didn't set. He lost it. I think Brady. I think he lost the lock nut that sets the brake pedal height,
Oh
and
gosh.
it just kept running, and it would just lock. You're just riding along, don't touch the brake, and it just locks the rear wheel.
I've actually seen that more times than I care to mention. Like people who work on their own stuff, they'll just be like hauling the mail, right? And then the back tire locks
Yeah.
up, and they're like, oh.
Oh, hey, it was sketch, man. I was tired of riding it. I think we eventually just loaded it up in the back of a side by side or something because I couldn't ride it no more. It would scare you to death. Just
That's awesome.
all of a sudden,
Is Cole as bad at setting them up as Russ, or is it just Russell?
uh, you know, everybody gets a couple dumbass tickets, in their life, and Russ may have he definitely used one that day, but and he may not miss it anymore,
Yeah.
but he missed it that day.
Oh, that's
Hey, his
awesome.
bike was fine though.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm sure his
Yeah,
bike was.
oh yeah, he was ripping on his bike, dude. And then, but mine, you couldn't ride it.
Oh, that's awesome. So I know that I don't know if you're allowed to talk or you want to talk about this or not, but at one point you looked like you were maybe developing some triple clamps. Is that still a thing?
Yeah, yeah, no, I have. I, let me tell you what's going on with it. So we we are trying to bring everything. Well, I say everything, but I won't be able to make everything under our roof that we sell. But we're bringing everything in house from the 3D printing to the design to the SolidWorks to the machining, and so we started machining like that. The dually is the first piece that was designed, drawn, 3D printed, programmed, and machined under our roof. Um, so we're trying to now write programs for every little piece that we make, and that's going to take a while. But yes, I've made some changes. Um, you know, I'm a fan of the X Trig triple clamp, the X Trig Rock, and I think they have the best mounting system in the industry. I don't think anybody's close to what they've got, but they didn't patent the mounting system, um, and I've copied their mounting system, um, and I made some changes to the triple clamp, and hopefully we'll get to that soon, But what I'm trying to do now is machine the bread and butter stuff, just kind of get that get that rolling.
Yeah.
But but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do like
Where do you get the polymers made? Where are those coming from?
those things are made in Memphis, Tennessee, right up by the river, downtown Memphis, old part of Memphis, at a facility that's, ooh, that facility's probably 50, 60 years old. But
Okay.
they're all the polymers are made in Memphis, Tennessee. We make everything in the U.S. There's not one single thing that we sell that is not made here in the States, but those are made in Memphis, Tennessee.
Cool. Yeah, I was just wondering because I mean, chemical engineering is a weird thing with stuff, and I mean, half the reason no one makes mooses in this country is that it's just environmental issues with foam and all that stuff. My brother-in-law is a chemical engineer and used to be in the reaction injection molding business, and it's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
so. So Crash Hard, do you like? This is a great question. Do you have a background in engineering and machining? And because how are you so good at this stuff? So
Um, I've always created things my whole life, whether it's building houses or building subdivisions. And my wife says I look at the world just a little bit different than other people, whatever that means. But um, My dad's a civil, my dad is actually a degreed mechanical engineer and a practicing civil engineer. I started college going to be a civil engineer, and then I changed my major I've been around engineering my whole life, so but I'm not an engineer. I didn't want to do what my dad does. Bless his heart, I couldn't sit in that office all day. So I wanted to do something different, but I don't know. My
Yeah,
wife says I look at things different than other people.
I would agree. And I running, because your construction business was, you did a lot of heavy equipment, right?
Yep,
So
yep.
I'm guessing that would help, that mindset, that ability to look at things differently probably helped keep machines running and running well. Because a lot of guys that I know that run heavy equipment that don't see things like that break crap.
Yeah,
And I would imagine your machines always work pretty good.
they did. They worked pretty good, but I had some really good people that at the construction company. I really did. I was blessed with a bunch of really good people.
Yeah.
I miss those. That's the only thing I missed from selling out was my people. Well, I miss my people because when you work somewhere, a lot of times you spend as much time or maybe more with the people you work around than your family. I had some really good people that worked for me, and I had a lot of really good customers too. I worked for a long time, and I miss them. I still check in with them, but I don't miss it now. If it rains, it only messes my dirt bike riding up. I don't have to worry about making payroll when it
Yeah.
rains. This time of year when it rains all week long, I don't have to worry about how am I going to pay these guys?
Yeah. That's that's awesome. So how many CNC machines do you guys have?
We just got one.
Oh
We
wow,
got a
you produce all that? That's crazy.
Yeah, we just got one. Man, them things are expensive.
Yeah,
Especially,
no.
how hard it is. You know how hard it is to make money in Mississippi?
Yeah. I can only no, I know those things are crazy money. I'm just surprised because my wife used to work, or well, she used to work for Ross Reels, the fly fishing reel company, and
Yeah.
at one point they had 24 CNC machines running 24 hours a day, which I don't even know. Well, you know how much that costs. It's crazy.
A lot.
It's
Yeah,
a
a
ton of
lot.
money.
Hey, I hadn't posted any videos of. I have posted videos of the CNC when we've been machining, but I hadn't posted anything about our robot. But when we bought the CNC machine, I bought a robot as well, um, and that thing is super cool. We're really close to getting able to fire the robot off, but it replaces the human um, at the machine.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it'll take the raw parts, put it in the machine, machine them, go in there and get the finished part out, clean it off, blow it off with air, and put it back on the shelf.
That's awesome. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Where do you get the all the coatings done? Obviously, it's here in the States, but do you send them out of state or they stay there close to you?
Look, dude, I fooled with anodizers for a while. When we first started, wasn't anodizing anything, and then I started anodizing, and I couldn't get an anodizer that would follow instructions properly, and they'd all talk a good game. We'll take care of your stuff, and they'd scratch it, drop it, send it back different colors, and then you start seeing anodizing, and it fades over time. Everybody's seen stuff, and it's 3, 4 years old, or maybe a year or 2 years old, and it fades. And I literally just got sick and tired of dealing with anodizers. I'd had enough one day. I said, "This is it. I'm done. I'm not talking to another one." And so I started researching on the internet about coatings, and I started reading about that Blackstone coating, the graphene coating. Um, the only place they do it is a place in Houston, Texas called IA Coatings in Houston, Texas. That guy out there is super smart, Tracy Marquardt. He's the guy that invented it, patented it, and I send everything that gets Blackstone or Greystone leaves us, goes to Houston, Texas, takes them about a week to turn them around, and then comes back to us. But it's all done in Houston, Texas.
That's cool. Who does the Cerakote?
The Cerakote is done in Water Valley, Mississippi, at a place called Valley Tool,
Cool. Because
and they
Cerakote's
do.
pretty awesome stuff too. I mean, the graphene is, and for people that don't know, and I mean, I don't really know, that stuff is so thin. it's not really any different than anodizing, is it? I mean, as far as like the end part.
It's a little bit different from anodizing, but the graphene, the Blackstone graphene is so thin. If you notice, like on our originals, we have to plug the thread holes. If you notice, when you've
Yep.
seen enough of our stuff, well, the graphene is so thin that it's a spray-on coating, but it's so thin you don't have to cover any thread holes. Even those little bitty 3 millimeter holes that hold the badges on,
Yeah.
they 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 shoot the coating right in that too.
No way. That's crazy.
That Blackstone graphene was developed for the military, and they applied that coating to the inside, not the outside well, but the inside of the action on the gun. So the bolt and the inside of the receiver gets coated with that, and nothing sticks to it. And the military, the high-end military guys, they like it because they don't nothing sticks to it, and they don't have to clean the gun. Um,
Nice.
because nothing. But the bad thing about it is, when you're shooting one of those guns that's been Blackstone, all of the after firings. I guess I'm not a gun guy, but all the stuff that sticks in the gun,
Right.
it all blows out. So it does blow a lot of stuff out of the gun,
Right.
you know, but nothing sticks to the inside of the gun. But that's how thin it is. You can shoot it into action.
That's cool. That's amazing stuff. What is your dirt bike background? I was going to ask that earlier. How long have you been riding? What do you race? Give us kind of the rundown of Lance riding dirt bikes.
I got an I got an XL70, I think, when I was about 10 years old. My dad wasn't a dirt bike guy, and I don't know, I rode it for a couple years, and my dad would, you know, patch it up and send it back out until eventually he didn't fix it anymore. Um, then started riding street bikes unbeknownst to my parents, because I bought a street bike and I had to hide it at a buddy's house, because they wouldn't let me have a street bike. And I rode street bikes for a while, and I had a buddy of mine that rode street bikes and dirt bikes, and he kept telling me, "You need to buy a dirt bike; it'll change your life." And I went riding a couple times, with buddies, and I really liked it. And when I graduated college, the first thing I had oh my gosh, I don't know, I paid like $2,500 for my Ford Ranger. I was driving a Ford Ranger, and I
Yeah.
went and financed a brand new, I believe it was 1992, a brand new 1992 KDX 200. The first thing I bought out of college, and I had to put
Nice.
it on, you know, but and I started riding dirt bikes then in '92. So I hadn't been riding that long. What, just 30, 31 years, I guess.
Yeah. Do you still have a KDX by any chance? It seems like most people that had KDXs still have one. I have one, actually.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I've got
Yeah.
one that it's a trainer. Like my kids, when they were moving off of mini bikes to full size bikes, they ride that. My wife rides it some. She doesn't really dirt bike. She goes out with us like once or twice a year and goes cruising around on dirt roads and has fun. And then my kids will use it to train their friends. Like if they got friends that don't ride, they put them on the KDX because it's just easy. Like any moron can ride a KDX. So back to the other. Do you or have you raced?
Yes, I've raced a lot, whatever, back in the day.
Yeah.
So I raced mostly the Mid South Winter Series. That's close down here because at that time I was young, freshly married, all that stuff. Kids didn't have the money to do the nationals, but I would do some national hare scrambles, which back in the day was as big as the GNCC. There was really not much anymore. One wasn't any more prestigious than the other back in the day. And I raced GNCCs, and I guess the best GNCC, I won vet 30 plus 30A classes in the national hare scrambles, and I never got better than second in the vet A class at the GNCCs. Best GNCC finish I had was 35th overall, Loretta Lynn's.
Nice.
I was the
That's awesome.
last guy, whatever you call it. That was back in like before I tore my knee up the second time. But I stayed on the lead lap. There was 35 of us that did 6 laps that year. I think it was '02, and I stayed on the lead lap. I never got lapped or anything, but there was only 35 that did
Nice.
6. That was it.
See, Justin Callan, what is the major difference between the SX and the normal? Well, we discussed that before. It's lighter and sexier, is the Cliff Notes version. I like that. Is the
Yeah.
SX, and he's a B-ish rider, wondering which one I should get. So the performance, there's zero difference. They both work perfectly. It just depends on, do you have the extra $79 to look sexier? And that would be the question.
You know what? Here's what I think.
Yeah.
Here's my little tip. I think the blackout edition is the best money buy on the whole website because you get the blackout for only $20 more.
Yeah.
So it retails at 419 and everything on it's black, and
Yeah.
it looks pretty thick. We
That's
sell
what
a
I've
ton of.
got.
I know you bought some today, I think, but I
Yep.
think the blackout's the best bargain on the website. But
Yeah, it's so pretty. It looks so good. The other thing is, what I love is that it doesn't take much. If you want them to engrave, you can have your name, whatever, Mandozer. We should have a Mandozer line all for Brady.
yeah, yeah, I
But
should.
it's super cool, and like Lance actually just engraved one from a customer of ours. I don't even know where's that going to. It's not even. It's going to New Hampshire or somewhere back east, right?
Wait, I forget. Yeah,
Eh.
that's when you sent me the text about being on the show, and I said, "Funny thing, I just watched one of your social media posts, and I'm engraving a top clamp for you as we speak."
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, the guy wanted to put Highland Cycles on it, which is super cool. Yeah, Jim Nash wants to say that his wrists thank you, and
really.
Jim, he's like, I don't know if you noticed, but he has an accent. Yes, yes, he does. Jim has an accent. Jim is from New York, and has the most ridiculous New York accent. It's awesome. So I want to
Yeah,
get you two together because it would be really hard for my brain to handle the two of you guys.
yeah.
Colton Breedlove wants to know when the dually will be available on the website. Didn't you say that was it today? Did it just go up?
It's on now. Yeah,
Yeah, Colton. So just today,
just
it's up.
go to the shop where you just no store. Go to store, click on the search bar, type in Dooley, and it'll bring it up. There's no pictures, but it'll bring it up.
Can you through the website? Can you order your Mako with the dually? Like, is that a clicky thing now?
That's I don't do. I'm not real smart.
Yeah.
You've been talking to me for 45 minutes. I hope you figured that out by now. But I don't do that. Yeah, Lisa and the girls do that. But yes, it'll be an upgrade, so you'll be able to, order the Mako with regular perches or upgrade it to the dually.
Nice. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to ask. It's a family affair there at XC Gear, right? So your wife
Yep.
is Lisa. For people that
Yep.
don't know, when he says Lisa and the girls, that's Lisa is his wife. And then
Yep.
who are the girls? Are they related to you, or just? I mean, I'm sure they're family now because
Yeah,
they
they're
work with
not
you.
related. Heather's the first employee that we hired, and we've got great employees there. But Heather's the shipping manager and over all of the inventory. You've talked to her before. She handles a lot of things on the website and problems. Heather, uh, Brianna is there as well. Brianna does a lot of the shipping and packing and putting inventory up and keeping everybody in check. They're both. Every woman at the shop is kind of strong-willed and little
Yeah,
snappy.
that's
Uh,
good. That's what you want.
Yeah, I know. I like strong women. And then David is the programmer and machinist, and David um, has rode dirt bikes before, but he's not really a dirt bike guy. He's a mountain bike guy, e-bike guy. But
Okay.
he does ride but we're gonna try. I'm gonna try to convert him,
Yeah.
over to where I can call him a dirt bike guy that rides bicycles instead of a bicycle guy that rides dirt bikes.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like here in Colorado, that happens an awful lot because a lot of the mountain bike guys here, they like big, downhill, gnarly, nasty, we're in the mountains. And when they ride a dirt bike, they realize that the whole time is like that fun downhill part. It's just as fun going up the hill on a dirt bike. And I've
Sure.
seen so many of them, and man, are they good. Holy crap. If they're really good downhill mountain bikers, usually make very, very good dirt bikers. Because
Sure.
they just have a finesse that's amazing. Chris Kinberg, real quick, the dually it's a linked perch. So instead of having two individual perches that could twist and whatever in a crash, they're linked. It's all one piece. Denny Horseman, that's a tough name for me. Sorry, Denny. Do wraparound guards mess with the flex of the Mako? They don't, do they? Because it's separate.
No, as long as they attach to the bar, no.
Yeah. So it takes the flex out of the bar, which you can't get away with that if you're going to run full wraps. So for me, like I said, with my bad wrists and elbows and old parts that are broken, for me, I like the fact that not having full wraps, having flags, and the Mako 360 is just an extra level of comfort. But they work great.
I'm with you 100%. I was a full wrap guy until 2 years ago, maybe, and I talked so bad about people that ran flags. Can't believe you run them. It's stupid. Look at, you're going to tear your fingers up. And then I got a set from Enduro Engineering, those new ones they got,
Yeah.
the Moto ones that bolt to the perches.
Yeah.
Once I got one set, I converted all of my bikes over to that. I won't go back unless something happens. I'm not going back.
That's exactly what I did. I wanted, it's funny because I bought that 125 and I wanted to keep the bike as light as possible for racing. I didn't want to put any extra, weight that I didn't need. And so I didn't put full wraps because they're heavy, and I just put flags on it. And I rode the thing, I don't know, probably a half a dozen times. And I'm like, dude, I'm done.
Yep.
Pulled all the full wraps off my bikes, put flags on all of them. I'm like, and those EE ones are brilliant. Those things are so freaking tough.
They are.
My kid did end up breaking one, so it can't be done if you're a 15-year-old kid going real fast. But he snapped one off. But man, I've had some huge crashes without any kind of issues. It's been awesome. Danny Powell, at the risk of asking questions that's already been asked, when will we see 23 TX foot pegs? He said door pegs, but I'm thinking he means foot pegs. You've got the 23 stuff, right?
I sold out of them.
Oh.
I'm waiting on shafts from the foundry.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
I've got all the pieces except shafts. I'm out of shafts. I can't machine any more shafts till I get some more blanks.
Okay, there we go. So, right on. So, any idea? Any guesses as to when that?
They're saying February.
Oh my gosh, that's rough.
I know.
But it is what it is, right?
It is what it is. They come.
Yeah. See, Mike Kowalski, I've been running the SXS Burley flags. Those are sweet too. If you've seen those, they're the same idea. The thing I really like about the Enduro Engineering is that since it bolts down on top of the perch, it doesn't take up any more space on the bar. That's
really
another huge thing about the Mako 360 over other options for doing the same thing, which the Mako does a better job. But beyond that, it keeps the cockpit of your bike super clean. And so having the Mako there that doesn't really add anything to the cockpit other than sexiness, we've already discussed. But then those perches are better. The SXS Burley flags are good and they are super strong, but they clamp to the bars, which adds another thing to the bars. And I try to keep all that super clean. So
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Jimmy Neihart, flags scare me, lots of trees up there. Jimmy, if you just didn't hit the trees, you'd be all right. Just don't hit the trees, man. Like, you'll be okay. Just stay out of the trees. Oh, it's awesome.
You could ride with nothing. You wouldn't need flags or anything. Just
Yeah.
run like the moto guys do if you didn't. But I can't keep from hitting trees either.
Yeah. The thing about the EE, I've actually hit some trees pretty hard with those things and not messed up my hands. So I like them. Sean Deagle asks, is shipping to Canada crazy, or should I just wait until I'm going to go south and get it shipped there? What do you guys charge to ship to Canada?
Whew, that wouldn't be a good question for me.
Gotcha.
That's going to be a Heather question. We ship to Canada all the time, but a lot of people will send things to Washington or North Dakota and then just drive over the border. That a lot of people got a hookup there. We used to have a dealer in BC, but some people have been saying they've been calling him and not able to get in touch with him.
Huh. So, quick thing I learned just recently, I started shipping to Canada for the hoodies and merch and stuff like that. I got through ShipStation, and I can't imagine it would cost much more to ship. And again, I'm sure Heather knows all this stuff. I'm just, as a guess, it cost me about $27 to ship a hoodie, which I'm sure is really close to the same price as it would be to ship a Mako 360, because the size, the Mako might weigh a little bit more, but not a lot. So my guess is it can't be more than $35-40 at the max.
Yeah, I would think that was high. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you'd be good. Ronnie Nelson, how would they work on the stock Renthal bars on a Honda? They'd work great, right?
The Honda up to 1 1/8 bar, or is Honda still running a skinny 7/8 bar?
I think, Ronnie, are they, I can't remember.
I think they're running a full-size bar. Yeah.
Yeah, they're running the fat bar, aren't they? The Renthal fat bar?
Fat bar now, I think, yeah.
So, Ronnie, if it's a 7/8 bar, they don't work. If it's an 1 1/8 bar, it works great.
Yeah, I think they are.
Let's see. Yeah, Jim Nash, sexy cockpits, absolutely. Yeah, I know, Nyhart. We don't have trees like you do. That's because it's cooler out here. Sawyer, what's the story with the podcast not getting put on Google? That's a good question, Sawyer. I don't know. I'm actually, tonight, that's one of my goals after this is over, is to sort that out, because they weren't going up on the podcast like my Apple podcast. So I don't know yet, but we'll figure that out. And Ronnie says it's a 7/8. So Ronnie, you got to switch over to a fat bar, which, I mean, that's easy enough. Let's see. Will send me some for my, Ronnie, yeah, I'll send you one for the 300 XCW. Again, text me tomorrow. We'll get one drop shipped to you. Sean, at 53 years young, we need as much help as possible. Absolutely. I've had, between climbing and then now riding dirt bikes, my wrists, hands, whatever. And it seriously is the difference between, for me, it's the difference between, like, I'll still ride all day on a bike without a Mako, but it sucks, and I don't have as much fun. And whereas if I ride my bike all day, I can ride 8, 9, 10 hours, and it's just, yeah, it's whatever. It's no big deal. All right, it has been an hour. Lance, thank you so much. Don't get off the line quite yet, but we're going to shut this thing down. Final words of advice. You got any dad advice, Lance?
Any dad advice?
Dad advice, yeah, like just advice for the world. It can be motorcycle related, life related, whatever.
The advice I gave my kids is I'm trying to raise you to be stand flat-footed, grown-ass men that take care of yourself and your family. And that's the way I tried to raise my kids. And they've all turned out awesome. But, man, I wouldn't be a good one. I'm one that needs advice and not be given advice.
I don't know, man. That's pretty freaking good advice. I like it. Well, right on, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for this. I really appreciate it. Lance, thank you. I really, really appreciate you taking time out of your night. It does mean a ton. Yeah, we'll see you guys on the next one. I love you. Get out and pop some wheelies.
Thank you, guys.